Some of these cables plunge into adjoining rooms, others snake down the wall and along the floor to a chair-like device. It looks a bit like an electric chair, but with a bulkier rear section that hums with power. A scientist works at a panel at the rear of the chair, while a second scientist secures a skull cap to the young teenage boy being strapped into the chair by a guard. The skull cap has dozens of wires of different colors and sizes, all running out of it and into the strange machine. The young boy looks scared, but determined. The guard tests the restraints, then when satisfied nods at two men in black suits, standing by the entrance to this dimly lit concrete room. The men are smartly dressed and both wear dark sunglasses despite the low light. One of the men in black now looks at the scientists. Begin. The scientist at the rear of the machine furiously works the controls as the entire thing powers up with an audible hum of electricity. The boy's eyes widen in fear, but the second scientist leans down to reassure him. Just like we've discussed, concentrate on the target and the date, September 4th, 1976. See the man's face in your mind's eye. Focus on each line and the crease of his face. The boy shuts his eyes and nods. The hum of power in the room grows in volume, almost becoming unbearable. The boy grits his teeth and begins to yell, when suddenly, a bright flash of light and nothing. The boy is gone. A moment later, the boy returns, once more strapped to the chair. He's sweating profusely and panting as the scientists rush to let him out of his restraints. One of the men in black rushes to the boy and lifts his head up. Did you see him? Did you see the target? The boy, exhausted, nods his head. And? What did you learn? The boy barely manages to speak in a hoarse whisper, clearly on the verge of physical and mental collapse. He was talking with a man. New submarine in construction. Called it Akula. The boy faints. As the scientists call for a nurse and remove him from the chair, the two men in black meet together, speaking in low whispers. Tell the president our operative successfully infiltrated Soviet time space. He failed to gather any useful intelligence, except confirmation of what our field operatives already told us. The Russians have built a new submarine, something big. We'll try again tomorrow, with the focus on gathering operational and technical details. Project Montauk is a success. Project Montauk, the infamous conspiracy theory that might have inspired Netflix's Stranger Things, a show about a secret government lab using psychic children to reach out to a different dimension. Only if whistleblowers are to be believed, traveling to other dimensions is only the beginning of what the United States government has successfully accomplished deep underground in New York State. Camp Hero, New York, was established in 1942 on the very tip of Long Island Sound, disguised as a simple fishing village. Camp Hero was actually a coastal defense station packing some serious firepower, meant to stop a Nazi invasion of New York. The gun emplacements were set in massive concrete bunkers sunk into the earth, and defenders would be able to rain hell down on any invaders with 3 batteries of 16-inch guns and 6-inch guns. Shortly after World War II, the site was abandoned by the U.S. military, with the exception of a long-range radar station meant to monitor the Atlantic for incoming Soviet nuclear missiles. Today, despite efforts to sell the land to developers, environmentalists have succeeded in protecting much of the former facility, which has been turned over to the National Park Service. At least, that's the official history. If you're one of the unlucky few who visited Camp Hero against their will, then you know that the real history is far, far more sinister. 11 years after Camp Hero was officially shut down, 2 men underwent hypnotherapy to recover repressed memories they'd buried since they were children. Much to their surprise and horror, the men discovered they had their memories of their time spent in a secret government lab under Camp Hero buried deep into their subconscious. But now, the memories came flooding back. The tale is sinister. Discovered to be psychically sensitive, Preston Nichols and Stuart Sirdlow were...
This is Unveiled, and today we're exploring 4 time travel stories that will make you question reality.
Are you a fiend for facts? Are you constantly curious? Then why not subscribe to Unveiled for more clips like this one, and ring the bell for more fascinating content.
Do you believe that time travel is possible? It's one of the most hotly debated concepts in all of science, as well as one of the most wished-for hypothetical technologies on the planet. Given the chance, would you go forward or back in time? It's another deep-rooted question that has us all deeply divided. So whenever there's even a sniff of a real-life time travel story, it usually attracts a lot of attention. And in this video, we're going to look at 4 of the most compelling temporal tales from 4 different corners of the world map. First, and arguably the most famous time travel story of modern times, John Titor, an alleged American soldier sent back from the year 2036. He posted on a spate of internet forums in the early 2000s, originally under the name of Time Travel_0. At the time, Titer's messages caused a stir because they appeared to place him across 3 separate generations. According to him, he was first sent back to the year 1975 to regain an early IBM 5100 computer. The retro machine was apparently needed to prevent computing problems in the future, a reference that some of Titer's audience took as relating to the year 2038 problem, a predicted Y2K-style computer glitch scheduled to happen 2 years after Titer's original time. The seeming time traveler explained his appearance at the turn of the century, though, as him simply stopping off on his way home. In his posts, Titer made various references to imminent civil war in America between the years 2004 and 2015, and even to the outbreak of World War III shortly afterwards.
Ruler, it's time!
That didn't happen. But believers claim there's a ready-made explanation at hand. Crucially, Titer also advocated the many worlds theory of reality as being the correct one. It was something which he suggested was common knowledge by 2036. And it's an important part of the story because it effectively means that any predictions Titer made that didn't come true could be explained away by it. So the theory goes that his reappearance in 2000 could have caused a split in the timeline, and fortunately for us, that split meant that war in this world was avoided. So what do you think? Did John Titer save the world, or was it all just an elaborate hoax? For our second and perhaps even stranger time travel claim, we're headed across the Atlantic to Europe and France. What's come to be known as the Moberly-Jourdain incident also took place almost exactly 100 years before John Titer took to his keyboard. And it does what all good time travel stories should do by adding ghosts into the fray as well. In 1901, Charlotte Ann Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain were 2 academics visiting Paris shortly before they began working together at Oxford University. As part of their trip, they took in the Palace of Versailles, where, while exploring the gardens, they took a wrong turn and became lost. And right about now was when it got weird. Both remembered walking along the outskirts of a wood when they alleged that the world around them suddenly changed. The trees reportedly took on an unreal quality, and they came across a variety of unusual characters dressed in old-fashioned clothing. One in particular caught the attention of Moberly. A woman in traditional dress stood on an open lawn, apparently sketching the landscape. Eventually, Moberly and Jourdain found their way back to the palace, and a week later traded notes on what they both suspected had been a paranormal experience. The main idea was that wherever they had stumbled upon had been haunted, but also that in being there, they had traveled back in time. They would spend the next 10 years gathering more research before publishing under pseudonyms on account of their experience in the 1911 book, An Adventure. Among the most noteworthy claims they made in it were that they believed that they had traveled back to the late 1700s, and also that the sketching woman had been Marie Antoinette. In the time since, the Moberly-Jourdain incident has been explained away by others as a number of things, including a shared delusion and an unknowing encounter with a period costume party. But what's your verdict? Could there really be some kind of portal in the Palace of Versailles grounds, or were these Oxford academics simply mistaken? From Paris to Rome, and more specifically, the Vatican City, where there are some serious claims that the Church has a secret and ongoing history of dabbling with time travel too. The Chronovisor is probably one of the craziest machines ever said to have existed anywhere, anytime. According to those who claim it to be real, it's a bizarre, cabinet-like contraption packed with buttons, gadgets, and gizmos, all designed to totally reconstruct our experience of time. A Chronovisor user is said to be able to view any past event through the machine thanks to some spectacular technology that can somehow convert electromagnetic radiation into effective backwards time travel, or at least convert it into a window through which you can revisit actual history. Records mostly come from one Father Francois Brune, a Catholic priest who wrote about the Chronovisor in his 2002 book, The New Mystery of the Vatican. Broadly speaking, Brune claims that the device was built by another priest named Pellegrino Ernetti, and allegedly with the help of many of the world's leading scientists in the 20th century, including Enrico Fermi, today famed for the Fermi paradox. Father Ernetti is then said to have used the Chronovisor to go back in time to observe the actual crucifixion of Jesus Christ. And while Ernetti's claims have been continually challenged, and even he himself reportedly admitted making them up, proponents to the Chronovisor's existence insist that it's real.
Now, of course, you know he lied about that Mr. JBS. And of course, he admitted he lied about that Mr. JBS, so we excuse him for repeating the lie the guy already admitted to.
And now that After Ernetti was allegedly forced into casting doubt over it, the machine is today used in secret by a global elite to control world governments. Of course, if it does exist, then it's something unlike anything else ever built on Earth. Would it surprise you if there were a machine like this used by a select few to pull the strings of society?
Nope.
Our last time travel story is perhaps a little more grounded, but strange all the same. And this time, we're headed for the UK. The city of Liverpool is famous for many things. The Cavern Club, the Beatles, Anfield. But did you know there's also a real-life time warp there? Allegedly. Most of the reported stories center around Bold Street, an area full of shops and shoppers. And while most of the time you can stroll around this part of town and stay firmly in the here and now, there have been some occasions when people have reported suddenly being transported back to a bygone era. The most famous case involves a former policeman who was out shopping in the year 1996. His wife went to a nearby bookstore while he went to pass time elsewhere. But then, when he went back to meet up with his wife again, he was confused to find that the bookstore wasn't there. In its place was a clothes shop, and it didn't turn back into a bookstore until he stepped through the door. Thankfully, husband and wife were swiftly reunited, and nobody was lost in time forever. But when the former policeman came to realize that the same building had been a clothes shop decades beforehand in the 1960s, that's when this particular tale took on a whole new meaning. It was as though he had been briefly transported back in time and given a glimpse of history, in a similar way to how Charlotte Ann Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain felt after their experience in Paris. Both Liverpool and Paris are fine European cities, granted, but could they also have something truly incredible in common with one another?
Terrifying reality that you were the only one left on Earth. Woke up one day to the terrifying reality that you were the only one left on Earth. Meet Javier, aka Único Sobreviviente, which means lone survivor. He claims to have woken up in a hospital with no recollection of who he was. When he wakes up, he notices that there's no nurses, no doctors, nobody in the hospital at all. And he goes outside to investigate. There's no cars moving, nobody on the streets, not even a bird flying in the air. Yeah, no animals. Now he's recording all of these videos and people are asking so many questions, including myself. At first glance, when you watch these videos, they're very entertaining. You're like, oh, he must be recording them early in the morning. Maybe he did it during one of the lockdowns. He just filmed a bunch of videos and he's just releasing them now, but that's not so. The more I watched, the more I became scared. If you ever watch movies like I Am Legend, shows like The Walking Dead, you know that there's a lot of money involved in those production sets. Millions of dollars on CGI to make it look like the world is desolate. Now Javier's only using his phone to film and uploading these videos barely edited onto TikTok. And he lives in a very big city. Now, as he starts getting his memory back, he remembers that he was in 2021. When he looks at computers, looks at his phone, everything is exactly the same as 2021, except all the dates on every electronic device is saying 2027. He realizes that there's some sort of connection between 2021 and 2027. He still has access to the internet, and he's even shown different locations, exact coordinates to where he's at, and leaving things. This is something like a parallel world, a different dimension, but a connection from 2027 where he's at in 2021. What I find rather fascinating and unique is he's going to these places that are populated, and that's what makes me wonder, like, did he really do this during lockdowns and just leave those things there and then had this master plan of people finding them later on? You're not going to want to miss this because the story gets even crazier. And I know what you're thinking, like, this cannot be real. There is something that he's doing, maybe some virtual reality, maybe some tricks with his camera, maybe he's paying people. Valencia, Spain is huge. It's home to about 2.5 million people. When you see some of these videos, even during lockdowns, you can see birds in the air. You can see, I mean, this is, of course, other videos that people are posting of where he's been. There are people there, very crowded areas. I put myself in his shoes, like, he's probably really scared. He's by himself. What would you do? Think about it. I mean, this surpasses every fear. Imagine being all alone. Us human beings, like, we have a connection. We have a connection to other people, to animals. We need that connection. We need those relationships. Nobody around. You're alone. If something happens to you, like, that's it. It's just you. Now, this is where it gets interesting. There's followers of his on his TikTok videos requesting certain locations for him to go and explore and to show that there's no one there. We're not just talking about regular places. These are historic landmarks in Valencia, Spain. Churches, hospitals, even a soccer stadium. Some have argued that he's going early in the morning, but he continues to prove people wrong. In this video, Javier shows a comment on the screen, and the comment says this: all your videos are made super early in the morning at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. when there's no one around. He then goes with this comment on the screen to a heavily populated part of the city with a clock, a public clock, and shows that the time is 5:46 p.m. I think that's military time. And I don't know about you, I mean, here in America at 5 o'clock, it's rather busy. People are just getting out of work. That's considered rush hour. This is Javier's TikTok page. I encourage you to go check it out, give him a follow, let him know that Omar sent you. Now, when I first came across this TikTok page, I was like, it's all in Spanish. Now, luckily for me, I know how to read Spanish. I mean, yeah, Spanish was my very first language. Fun fact about your boy Omar Gosh TV here. There's some things that I don't know. I would say English is my primary language. Okay, so this person pretty much says go inside of an airport. I understand that there's maybe some travel restrictions here and there, but I don't know. I mean, it even shows flights there and it shows the times. And I mean, this place is just completely empty. Lights flickering there. This person said they'll give him $500,000 if they do that. He goes into the bathroom, completely empty. Somebody here in the comments of that video said, why don't you go into an airplane? And I think it's great. I think it's really fun looking at some of the comments. Grab a video passing through the river or passing by the river. And I mean, you can see there's no cars on the streets, nobody walking around. I mean, I don't even see birds in the sky. I mean, pay attention and see if you see any birds in the sky. I mean, I'm looking. I've been looking. You guys might be able to help me on this. I mean, I don't understand. So somebody says to go to a Mercedes dealership and grab a Mercedes. So he finds this key right here, and I guess he's looking around and see what car this key belongs to, and he finds it. It's right outside. I mean, how was he able to do this upon request? Somebody requested him to go to a Mercedes dealership, and look, he's driving the car. He's the only one on the street, and this looks like dusk. There's somebody in the comment of this video saying, I'm starting to believe that what you're going through is real now. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm believing it too. This guy is trapped in another dimension, not just in time, but some sort of connected world, except there's nobody in his world but him. And this one right here, he goes to the Palacio de Marquez, and they said they'll give him $500,000, and he's in there, a place that would be very busy, usually filled with people. Nobody there. Busy city. No security guards. Nobody. Anyways, let's move on to the next. In this video, he has some keychains, still looking around for birds. Don't see any, but he hides this keychain and leaves latitude and longitude location right on the screen for somebody to find this, being that there's a connection between 2027 and 2021. If he leaves something behind, somebody's going to find it. Hides it in the tree. I mean, this is fascinating. Either that or, I mean, this guy is a pro when it comes to editing and special effects. But what makes this crazy, I mean, you can still see nobody in the background. But let's go to the next clips here. People are actually sharing that they found his keychain. Now, this person is also showing that the area that he was in is a populated area. You can see people walking their dogs. You can see people jogging, having picnics, and there it is. There's the keychain right there. He put a note there for them. This guy is in shock. Here's another one right here. Guy found it. I mean, did he go out early in the morning when nobody was around and film these shots right before he posted the video? I don't know. That's what makes this so cool. This